careful of those island boys. Little girl, use your head. They will tear you up like a paper toy. Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, no, no, no.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Rumbi.
Welcome to It's Layered.
We're in a long-distance friendship that started over 20 years ago when we were in high school.
We'll be talking about all things life, love, family, anything and everything else under the sun.
Delve deeper with us because in life, you know, Gine, my layers.
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, 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 yeah.
How are you, Rimbi, since we last spoke?
I'm good. How are you as I sip on my coffee?
Oh, coffee. Nice.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. We've talked so much about so many different topics this season, and I feel like we keep circling around this one and we keep kind of like going for it, but then mentioning it. And obviously it's religion.
Let the
What
church
are your...
say amen.
Girl, we're coming for the church.
Jesus, our Father, please forgive us. But it's not about you.
Yeah, it's not about it's the construct around. What's the definition of religion to you?
I think religion is organized practices to perform certain rituals, certain activities as a group, a specific group of people that identify with this religion and perform the practices to worship their chosen deity, God, whoever. So it's a human constructed practice. You know, it's not necessarily a deity or a God. God construct. And for you, I said it right.
No, you definitely did. And all I could say additionally is I feel like it also bleeds into social constructs and identity constructs. So people will be like, oh, I'm a Christian. And when you say that, that gives that person you're saying it to an idea of who you are. Or what you're about. So it's been very long-standing, obviously. I think it's since really beginning of time since we started.
100%. And there are many, many, many religions. I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, there are numerous, but I think from where we come from, it's like maybe there are two. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's you're Christian or maybe Muslim. It's really, but there are many other religions that fall under the spectrum. Do you describe yourself as religious, Am?
When I was younger, yes. And I'll probably say as I have lived in Australia for longer and longer, it's becoming more and more of a no. I'm becoming more spiritual than religious. And the big difference being that I don't really live in someone's box. So like with religion, it's like, oh, you have to do this and do that and do this, and these rules and this, as exactly as you said before when you were describing it. And I'm less and less that. Like I don't have to go to mass at 9 a.m. to say, oh, I'm praying. You know what I mean? So,
I think
me.
I just thought when you're saying that, I was thinking of Kirk Franklin. He had an album called Losing My Religion. People were shook in the church. They were like, what? I'm sorry.
What are you doing? Say what, my guy?
Losing religion, then as a rap. I think I identify as religious to an extent because I practice certain Christian sort of rituals. However, I definitely lean more to the spirituality side of things. I pray, I read the Bible, sometimes I fast, things like that, but I definitely believe in the more spiritual side of things.
So you like do it your way.
Yes, doing it my way. I think so. But being Zimbabwe, why do you think being Zimbabwean, why are we so religious as a nation? Like, Why is that
similar to what you said before about what's his name, Kenya, saying always blaming it on slavery? I blame it on colonialism. Warungu. Like literally.
Yeah.
I personally think for me, religion ties in all them things we've been talking about, you know. It ties in, it is elitist. People think they're better than. It is classist because even within the church, there's the hierarchy.
Yep.
It is about comparison, like, oh, they do this, we do this.
Yes.
It is some forms of patriarchy. You know, some denominations within this religions don't allow women to be priests or pastors or
100%.
So I feel like it just ties in African parenting a lot of times because it ties well with listen to me, discipline, do this. You know,
spare the rod and spoil the child. If you grew up in a religious household, you know what that means.
Exactly. So I feel like it's like the granddaddy of all these things we've been talking about. It just takes it all. You know, food, you can only eat certain foods. Yes. Fashion, you can only, like, girl, which topic have we done that religion cannot be?
Music. You shouldn't listen to some XY music. Exactly. You shouldn't read certain books. Films.
TV and film.
You shouldn't be watching films. Social media is bad. Oh, Lord. You actually just said it all.
So every episode we've done is like religion will just be there, knocking on the door.
Poking its head. Don't forget about me.
Yeah. Oh gosh, sorry, we're having a moment here, but why do you think we're so religious? Because can you explain?
You said it. You said it. You said it. You said it. And I think we've touched on all the other topics. Like, we lost our culture, so then we took this one thing and we're like, we ain't letting go of this one. And I think too, religion is so big because in general, as Black people, even Black Americans, they have had to live through slavery. Africans, we lived through colonialism and losing a lot of our identity and a lot of suffering and pain. And then you throw in finances, which is, again, the economic factors of what Zimbabwe has gone through. We need something to believe in. We need someone to believe in. And unfortunately, we don't believe we can believe in God alone and do it our way. We need someone to guide us to how to do things with God, hence religion. And we've held on so tight. Yeah. That bond be strong. Covalent bond. Yeah. Is that the strongest one in science? Sorry, you did chemistry. Yes. I don't remember. Covalent bonding.
How do you even remember that?
Bruh, I don't know, because that was not my strong suit.
Yeah. I co-sign. And I feel like religion, because it seeps into everything, is almost like the buck stops there.
Yes.
You know, because then your parent can be like, Maria, you know, God, you won't go into heaven.
Are you gonna
what you gonna say? So it's like that's the last, you know, man.
Yeah. 100%. Wow. It'd be deep. This thing be deep.
In our society, obviously being Zimbabwean or even being Zimbabwean diaspora, do you see any benefits to being religious? Like when you look back, you know, life in Zimbabwe, even your life outside of Zim, or any drawbacks?
Well, you know, the funny thing is, if you went to church, you were seen as a good girl. So Zimbabwe being what Zimbabwe is, the two-faced, how people like to be like two-faced, it works because if I'm seen as going to church, people will be like, this is a respectable girl, a good girl. So what I do behind closed doors at night in the streets, no one can really question as much because I be going to church every weekend. You see me there sitting there and praying, and you know what I mean? So it serves and benefits you. It makes you look like a wifeable material because you can uphold the family, the household, home, what. You are seen as someone who, a good child, a good woman, a good person, a good. And yeah, I think it lets you in some rooms in Zimbabwe for sure.
For sure.
So yeah, but I don't know about now living in the diaspora. It's a different ball game because I live in a country where religion was there was a lot of sort of persecution for religion under communism. When the country was under communism, it is no longer under communism. A lot of people think that it is, but it is not. They were not allowed to be religious. Religion was kind of questioned. So they had to take a step back, and people are afraid to be religious. So it's not seen as in that light. So it's been quite an interesting contrast.
Yes, like almost opposite. Yeah.
Like, for example, our pastor who married us, when I was explaining to him how pastors back home are really revered and given the most respectable seat and he's like, oh, here it's like people look at you like, pastor, like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing with your life? So just that contrast.
Just to what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I don't know, what about for you?
On a personal level, the benefits of me having come from a religious background is community.
Yeah.
Because like even our family friends, a lot of them seep from church.
Yes.
You know, going to Sunday school, some of my friends I didn't necessarily go to school with, I went to Sunday school with.
Yes.
You know, especially from other schools. I'm still in contact. So I feel like and I remember even when I came to Australia, one of the first things my dad did as a piece of advice, said, check a church, you know, because he then assumed if a church takes you under the wing, you will have that community. If you get into trouble, if you need to move house, you are sorted. So it's a family apart from your own family, a family away from family. So I think that was a major benefit of it. Like even just from a social construct, from just being sociable with people who were like-minded, quote unquote, and without having to dig deep to find out if you're like-minded or not. Because you're like, we all go to the same church. So we all obviously prescribe to the same way of life.
Yes.
The drawbacks, though, girl, this whole podcast, you could finish the whole episode. For me, it's the judgment if you're not going to be in those. So it's almost like the opposite of what I just said. It's like if you're not going to want to be part of that community or live differently to that community, then religion is the first thing to like try to get you back, whip you back into shape, you know? And I feel like that's a major drawback because we're not all the same. We don't all require the same things out of life. We're not all going to lead the same lives. And to expect us to do so, that's why people try to like do things behind closed doors because they're trying to live their true selves, but then pretend like, but I'm still. And that dichotomy is a major drawback of religion.
Problematic, yeah, for sure. Living these two lives and people thinking that the religion washes away the bad person or the negative side of people, and it doesn't. People hiding behind that. I've literally been to church and be like, this dude be preaching, and like, you know what I mean, like literally have that, because it's like the way people live and who they are in churches, you can't marry the two, which makes it hard for people from outside the church. And here we're speaking specifically about church because that's what we know growing up, are like, why would you go to church if that person, you listen to that person at church and then, you know what I mean?
I've seen them doing this. Yeah.
It's a contrast that people struggle to marry. And it's one of the many, many drawbacks. And I think one of the biggest drawback of religion is how we present the world and how exclusive it comes across oftentimes.
Yeah.
You know, it's
you can't sit with us energy.
You can't sit with us energy. And like, you church goers are, you guys are, you can't sit, don't sit with us. If I do this, I can't come to church if I do. And it's the opposite of what essentially a church is supposed to be.
It's meant to be.
It's the complete
for sure.
Opposite.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
What are the expectations for you growing up in a religious household?
To do everything perfectly. Like, no sins, no nothing. Everything's done, as expected. I feel like as a cop-out, we talked about African parenting. Why it ties so closely with religion is because it's a set of rules, the 10 commandments that you have to live like this. And then if you do this, and if you don't live in these boundaries, I'll discipline you. You know what I mean? So I feel like it works hand in hand. because then our parents can almost take a step back and just blame it on the Bible, you blame it on this is not the right way to live. Jesus didn't live like this, and it's like all those things where it doesn't invite conversation, it doesn't invite nuance, it doesn't invite choice, because it's like, oh no, that's just the way it is, full stop. The Bible says so, and like it's like, okay, I mean, there's some stuff that's like obviously like don't steal, don't kill, like some stuff that's just, but I find a lot of stuff is like, I want to discuss this a bit. Why can't we discuss this a bit? And yet it's like clear cut, where it's like, no, just follow it and that's it. Questions asked.
And you start also wondering, what's wrong with me if you do falter? It's like, what's wrong with me? I have failed. And it creates this high expectation that you could never, ever meet. And you're like, but what is wrong with me? And it's so difficult to meet and marry. And also the expectations make it hard for you to truly understand what is a relationship with God supposed to be, because it's like, these rules, I must. And you start seeing him as it's like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this person.
Disciplinarian.
Yes, exactly. So it'd be deep. Yeah. Are they warranted, these expectations?
In a word, no, I don't think so. I don't know, maybe because I'm someone who's outside of that box now, so it's almost like, well, I don't think in any way, which of form, someone else is better than or doing things better than. So, and also, again, if you expect people to be perfect, are they going to be? Because by nature we aren't. So it's almost like, are we setting, as you said before, a bar that's way too high? Are we better just being real with each other and dealing with how to come back in under the fray of religion or whatever, rather than starting so strict and then expecting like, and then it almost pushes a lot of bad habits as well, gossiping, watching what everyone else is doing, all those things which are not typically things that you should be doing in a spiritual sense. So it's like, and people are only doing that because they want to like make sure everyone's following these strict rules and protocols,
being policed. I mean, girl, and I've grown up in very religious circles, and it is such a soul crushing and soul it instead of doing good for your soul, like you can come out of a sermon and feel that God on your heart, and then step into certain rooms and you're just like, what is going on here? I think there's a huge hindrance of these expectations. You're not supposed to, as Amanda said earlier, look like this, dress like this, do that, be seen here, seen with this person, and you're just like, yo, it creates a lot of sort of cliques within the community that's supposed to be united. It creates a lot of judgment, as Amanda says, and it creates a lot of conflict, inner conflict for people trying to find where but I would step into church and feel like, what? I don't belong here.
And
like,
shame, because you realize you're not meeting the mark.
Yes. And I'm grateful that I had a strong sense of me for the most part, that I could still be in those spaces and still maintain me, but it's very hard to be that at all. What has it taught you? I think religion has taught me that God is forgiving, because if we can show up in our flawed ways and create these flawed structures and he still loves us, he must be loving. I don't know how to explain it. It's this realization that, wow, he really is not this, because he's not shooting us all down saying, you guys are doing it wrong, bah, 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 bah. I'm taking you down. He allows us to falter and, kind of fail. It's taught me that God is misrepresented in a lot of spaces. And it's really unfortunate, but he is misrepresented. And unfortunately, a lot of religions don't paint him in the right light. It has taught me that you can find God anywhere, because you cannot depend on a religious building to be with God. He is everywhere. And I think that doesn't serve maybe some of the desires of religious institutions of wanting you to be in a specific room with specific people, but he really is everywhere. It has taught me, it has given me hope for sure. I think it has, because as much as it has its flaws, religion is what introduced me to who God is. And there's no denying that. And I've learned hope through knowing God. I have learned how to believe even in like the most darkest situations that there will be a brighter day tomorrow. It has taught me that God does not favor, just because you say you are a religious person doesn't mean that he's gonna like not shine a light on someone who is not quote unquote religious. It has taught me that God shows up in different ways, or the sovereign being or the universe shows up in different ways to different people. It is not selective, that because you are Christian, you are going to get all the blessings. There's no such thing. Like, it's, you know, I don't know, like, it's taught me a lot, good and bad. What about for you?
I think for me, I definitely have to agree. I agree with everything you said, you know, especially when it comes to having that grit. You know, a lot of stories, especially particularly in the Christian sense, a lot of the stories, things didn't come easy. You know, they had to fight for it, whether it's, you know, all the people, the prophets or whoever it is you think of, a lot of them have a backstory. You know, and I think it's taught me that there's always more to people than what you see at face value. But having said that, it also has taught me negatively that people can have a herd mentality. Like, we just follow. You're just like, why are you just following? Question things, stop and take stock of what's happening. And don't just put someone on a pedestal just because, you know, they can quote the Bible more than you. Or so I think a lot of it, and you think of cults, you know, a lot of cults are steep off religion. And I think it's got a bad rep now in a lot of ways, because our humanity has shown through. You know, it's such a pure, beautiful thing when it was first constructed, I'm sure, and was meant to keep people in line and keep people part of a community. But in some ways, it's done the opposite and made people divided and divisive and argumentative. And we're better than this. And we're, you know, you think about, you know, Islam and Christianity and all this and all these. I mean, a lot of the conflicts we have right now are centered around religion or religious groups. And you're like, why are you not, you know, you pray to the same God, but why aren't you, you know? So it's like, I think it's taught me that as much as from all this purity and all this wild intent, humans are still humans and we can F things up. Like,
we F it all
we can still mess it all up, you know, and
and the crazy thing too is like we put people on a pedestal and then the next day they can be dropped, as the prophet Jay-Z Carter said, with the same sword they knight you, they gon' good night you. It's like one day you're on this pedestal, this is amazing, and then the next day you're cut off. It's such a twisted world that we live in. So I agree, Amanda, completely.
If you could change one thing about it, though, having said all of that, what would it be and why?
Only one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, girl, we can have a whole hour talking about choose one.
I think this idea that only one religion can know God and have the right avenue to God, which, as you said, is the reason why we have a lot of these conflicts, because like my way is the right way and the only way. It's like, nah, B, like there's different ways. So I definitely think that, no, like the ownership thing of this is the right way to do things. I would change that big time. And I think I would change the mentality of you have to be perfect to be religious.
Like, perfectionism is a thing, man.
It's the opposite. The reason why you go is because you know your flaws and you need, I said two. It was one.
Yeah. No, girl. It's okay. I allow it.
For you?
I think for me, it's what you brought up before, the you can't sit with us energy. The exclusivity, you're not good enough, and that's all actually perpetuated by the people within that religion group, rather than, or if you do this stuff, you can absolve yourself of, like sometimes I'm like, people still have to do the work. You can't just say to someone, pray and everything's forgiven. If it's like a bad habit that you have or something that you keep doing repeatedly, it takes a bit more than just praying. You need to also do the work to change those, because all the things we've talked about as the season has gone, domestic violence and all these people, most of them are in religion. They're praying every Sunday with these people, but then they go and do something else Monday to Saturday. So it's like that, where I'm like, we can't really take accountability. And I wish that religion would make people, as much as we're saying, they call you out, sometimes it depends on who you are.
Yes.
It depends on...
It's selective.
On the story around it. Yeah, it's very selective, and I would love if people were just all treated the same.
Equally.
Because I think then that would drive... Because this whole hierarchy within the church, or my ningi prays more than my ningi, and let's respect her more, is just...
Or money. And let me tell you, in religion, that money thing is a thing. They try to act like it ain't, but it is. So the person who looks nicer, who has a nicer car, gets to sit in nicer places, doesn't get called out on their BS, because, and it's like, isn't this not what we're supposed to be doing? But yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And what do you think about it being used, religion being used as a means of control?
Oof. I think it's one of the best ways to control people.
Because earlier you said it gives guidelines on how you should live.
Without saying anything.
Guidelines and control are two different things.
But I feel like the guidelines are controlling, because it's almost like, you need to do better. You need to, because, the Bible or this particular religion says do this, do that. Why are you doing this? So I feel like for people who don't subscribe to that way of thinking or live varied lives compared to the majority in that religion, it's like, the control aspect, you're under my thumb, don't break free. You know what to do, and then they make you feel bad, right? This is the right way to be. This is the only way to be. This is how it sounds like to me. It doesn't sound like it's right, or it's just about it being the only way. Even within communities, people like saying, like watching over people, judging people, all that stuff is just to control you to behave in a certain way. That's been predestined, right? Didn't have a choice. Especially when it comes to Zimbabweans or any colonized countries, because this really wasn't the way of our forefathers. So it's the ultimate control.
I couldn't say more. Like, you've hit the nail on the head with that one. It's scary, because if you the whole idea of being in a group is safe, and the threat of being ousted, right? Like it's the fear. So it keeps people within this. Oof, girl.
And some people go as bad as, if you miss a Sunday service or Saturday service, they'll be like, where were you?
Yes.
And it's like, bruh, you can't even.
Yes.
And it's not said from it's not even said from a concern point of view. It's said from like a ticking a register.
Yes.
Like, you need to explain yourself. Where were you and your kids? Why didn't you make it? So I feel like also the control has layers to it, because it makes, like, now, especially for me as a parent, I'm starting to realize it can give you lazy parenting.
Yeah.
Because you're like, even when you think about it, when we learned about sex or about relationships, it's either through the church or through school. Parents are not gonna really like, and even those popular schools within Zimbabwe are religious schools. They're Anglican, they're Catholic, they're, so it's like, because the parents assume, because they fall under Anglican or whatever, that they're going to teach you a certain value, rules or certain, moral values to uphold.
Yeah.
So I find that, it's all encompassing.
Yeah. And we spent a lot of time in the chapel. I'll tell you that when we were at school, like it was just, for sure. Yeah. Would you change if there was anything you could change in terms of our checkered history with missionaries in Zimbabwe and religion? Would you?
It all starts with colonialism. Yes, I think I would to a certain extent. Like, I don't know. I'd hate the humanity side of things. So all the things we're talking about, the judgments, you should wear this, you should wear that. Religion itself is not bad, but then it's the way we I guess perceive it and the way we then live with it is what's become bad.
Really bad, yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes I think of maybe like, the Musika Vanu thing where it's like you're more like with the spirits and the earth and that was more like how our forefathers were, and maybe I'm romanticizing it, of course, but at the same time it would have been nice if we had room for that to also breathe. Like I feel like now that just falls under traditional healing. You know what I mean? Like, you enda kunyanga or mudzimu and all those things. But then it's like religion came and then it obliterated everything else. Like it just because I guess one can't really exist without then you think about, some people argue, especially in the Western world, about the creation story and all of that and Darwinism. And so I feel like there's so much going on, and religion is very most cases doesn't give you room for debate. It's like, take this or not.
Yeah.
All or nothing. That's the way it is. Yeah. It's Adam and Eve. I'm not going to hear anything else. Yeah. So
yeah, I wish if they had come and allowed religion and our traditions to coexist. I really do. So we could see what that looks like. I feel, as we spoke about in the colonialism episode, we really took the religion and we're like, this is the only way, and we're only going to have that. Which is unfortunate because, like Amanda and I sitting here, we can't really say because there's not much to say because so much of it was taken away. And so I wish I would change that story, and I would change the story of this is better than you, or coming from a place of like we are not equal, or this is, because obviously if you go to someone and say what you're doing is less than, and it's not as good as what I'm doing, we always want the best, right? As humans, we want to be seen as the best. It's the whole power struggle. So inevitably people gravitated towards the what's deemed as the right and the best way to do things. So I would change that.
But maybe there wasn't as much savagery around it, because that's the story, language, right?
That's the story that's been fed, which is
How do you think religion fits into the modern world? So I guess taking it out of Zimbabwe, maybe within Prague, or how do you feel religion is fitting?
Religion is, as we've said, it's gotten a bad rep, of course, because of the way things have been done. I think globally we've seen in the protests currently around, women in Iran, yes, it's Iran, not wanting to wear whatever they want to wear, and how that has become a violently oppressed. I think there's a huge problem with that, and there's a huge problem because the extremes of it, the belief that women must wear burqas and cover themselves is the only way to go, and then obviously saying everyone has a right to choose. There's a lot of polarization in the world, and I think that's very problematic. There's no sense of, let me hear what they say, like let me understand and come to a meeting point of, okay, that's how you choose to live your life, that's okay, you do you, I do me, boo-boo. There's always like, you have to do it my way, or there's no way,
nothing at all.
And then on the other extreme of saying, like, if you choose to wear a burqa, you're archaic, you have archaic, you know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah, mindsets.
Maybe I believe in that. So I think it's, if you're modern, you do away with all. And then if you don't do away with all, there's no room for both to coexist in the middle, I feel, in the world. But I think too, there's, on a more positive note, I think we're starting to understand a little more about other religions, or what faith or religion was supposed to be. So through travel, through exposure, like I have a strong appreciation for Buddhism, and like, you know, we all, meditation and how we see it,
being Zen.
Being Zen is derived from that and the beauty of that. So I think that's a positive side of it, of being exposed to things we would never have been exposed to had we not.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think.
Oh my gosh, yes, you said it beautifully. I mean, for me, it's religion does fit in, but it's almost like not as we know it, not as we've been knowing it. You know, we're moving into a new era where you have to give people space and room to breathe and to be genuine, to be real. Because a lot of religion has hidden a lot of things over the years. You know, you think about, like, I mean, here in Australia, we have a huge history of a lot of Catholic schools, and a lot of men were sexually abused in these schools. You know, and the priest just got moved to another diocese. Like, no, you know, this guy got a problem. Like, we don't just move him to the next item and then another item, and then now he's abusing, you know, all these boys along the way at every school he's going to. So I find, like, being more in a modern society, people can call out things. We are calling it out. We are, as you said, you know, about Iran and women being told to wear certain things. Now there's room for discussions. There's room for, is this right? Is this, and there's room for us not just living our way exactly the same. You know, there is space for everyone, you know, and if I'm not threatening your well-being, if I'm not threatening your livelihood, then you can let me be as well, and learn, perhaps learn and bounce off, like you said, with Buddhism. You know, it's the only way we can be. I feel like it's the only way you can fit in. We can't all be the same. So,
but it's such a, don't you think that's such a human thing of wanting to be like, it's like, you have to, my way is the right way. And I think that's killing us in so many ways. It's like,
because one of the things I hate is like how religion can be like used as your identity. Like, it's like, okay, what do you the person think? You know, what do you consider? You know, it's like, oh no, the church says this. It's like, but what do you like? I hear that, but what do you think? And I think a lot of people fall under that umbrella. They don't give themselves space to explore, to be curious, to, you know, they just think, oh, the Bible says yes or no, so black and white. And the world is not black and white. And even the way the Bible is written, if you don't cherry pick, you will actually see that it's not so black and white. You know, there's layers to Old Testament, New Testament even. Yeah. 100%. So
you're so right, babe. And what is one misconception around religion that you wish was debunked, or you would like to debunk?
I think it's you can't sit with us energy. Because I think that's a human thing and not necessarily 100%. A religion thing. But unfortunately, it's been, so people feel like they can't belong in the space where they're meant to belong. You know, when Jesus, like, if I look at Christianity, when Jesus he was friends with prostitutes and drinkers. And I'm not saying people go and be prostitutes, but I'm just trying to say, like, there was meant to be a safe space. For
everyone.
And now a lot of people think it's not. And I would like to debunk that and say it is, but then it's the people who are making it not. You know, it's not, so I feel like we've just had in some ways quite a few bad apples who have then ruined it for everyone, a lot of people. And yet, you know, when you are in trouble, and my dad was right, you know, when you're new in a country, when you're trying to make your way, find your identity, the church is a space you can go and assume that everyone in that umbrella is looking out for you in a positive way. You know, so Yeah, I wish to debunk that. I think our human nature, don't let the human nature, override what is meant to be a pure and beautiful thing.
Yes. I think I would say, to debunk, it's okay to be open-minded within religion. I think that is a misconception, unfortunately, again, because of people that is there, which is you can only see things the way the religion sees you. I think it's very healthy. And in one aspect, I'm very grateful for how I was raised by my parents to some degree, because my mom grew up in an incredibly religious household. And when raising us, I think her and my dad wanted us to have a bit of a, to breathe a little. And in so doing, I was able to question and form opinions and, understand or try different things. And it makes you able to coexist with others in society better. And it doesn't mean you have to be someone else. I think if I dial back to the Bible, the Apostle Paul said that, when he's with Greeks, he'll do as the Greeks do, because you have to meet people where they are. That's how you build relationship and break. But people have this fear like, whoa, I ain't even gonna go there. I'm not even gonna step into that room. But I think that's absolutely not the way it should be. So there's room to be open-minded within religion, and it doesn't mean you are compromising your values or you are less of a person. Like, there's definitely room. And there's so many other myths and misconceptions to debunk. But I would say that, and at least for Christianity. Again, this episode we've dealt a lot with Christianity because that's what we know. We can't speak on other religions because that's not, who we don't really
that's
understand. It's not our lens. But I think, it's such a good topic, because
this is such a food for thought, because it's just like, why do we do the things we do within the churches and the spaces we're in? Like,
I think it's fear. I think it's fear of not belonging, fear of the unknown or what is different to us. There's a huge fear. And so we control. Think about it in your own life. Like, I'm someone, I like to plan, I like to have things a certain way. And then as soon as things start, spreading out those bounds, it's kind of like, you need to come back in. Yeah. So that's just on a larger lens and scale. And, it's the human nature in us. So
I just find it so ironic that we heavily police in these spaces, but we don't want to be heavily policed. So it's like, but the people who are like gossiping, whatever, but when it's their turn, they don't want that to happen.
Leave
to
me
them.
alone.
Yeah, so it's like,
the wilderness.
My gosh. Anyway, Rumbi, our Zim shout out is the beautiful Makho Ndlovu. Tell us more about her.
Yes, shout out to Makho Ndlovu. She's a media personality. She won some pageants in the US, and she went on to host a number of shows. She's been on Essence. She's now currently on Amazon Live. She's been on the Wendy Williams show. I think she's been on Sherry Shepherd. She's doing a lot. Recently, she was raving about working with Heidi Klum and Tim Gunn. And so she's proudly Zimbabwean. We love her. She's proudly Zimbabwean. I've seen so many clips of her introducing herself on these shows with Wendy Williams, saying I'm from Zimbabwe, and getting them to, say it too. And she's so proudly and beautifully representing Zimbabwe in a space that we are not as represented. And she hails too very proudly from Bulawayo, which is amazing, because I think, how Zimbos are. We like to separate and whatever, but I think I'm so proud to see her doing so beautifully and always coming back to the continent, and also shining a light on, artists and stars and people from the continent, whilst also doing her thing, interviewing, working with some Hollywood
and she's
celebs.
absolutely beautiful. She is stunning.
And I love her and her sister too. I think her sister's called Erica. Erica lives loud, and they do dances. They do they're so cute together. So I love her personality shining through and just all that she's doing. So shout out Makho and Ndlovu for all you do and repping so beautifully. So yeah, thank you, Am, for this beautiful. Really in-depth.
Now I'm thinking of a million things.
Yeah.
This just conjured up a lot.
That brings up a lot,
we can't talk about all in one episode, but really religion. I mean, at the end of the day, each to their own. That's just the way to
That's how the cookie
summarize.
Crumbles, for sure. And let us know your thoughts, because we always love hearing your perspectives. Obviously, we don't want to just come in with our lens, purely our lens in these discussions. Let us know. Instagram, we are at It's Layered Pod on Twitter. Email us, itslayeredpod@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the things. We would love, love, love you to do that for us. Amanda, anything else? Amanda's in her thoughts, y'all. She's roommate. Yeah, she's still thinking. She still be here like, man.
Yeah, like, goddamn.
goddamn.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, Rimby, for a beautiful episode yet again, and see you soon.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Oh, no.